Welcome back, XRP Collective, XRP Lion here. It's Dave. It's Sunday. It's 6/17, and we are presenting the 1 to 3 part presentation on XRP and the buyback and the pricing and why that's so important and information you need to know so that you can make an informed decision. The last one you saw was on EBS and the Redemption Center process, and that is quite extensive. So get a good beverage, relax, take some notes. We're going to go through everything. There'll be information that I won't spend a lot of time on, so you can go back and look at it for yourself. But the important thing is we're going to cover the information and the resources here for you to go back. So with that being said, let's begin and see what this is all about. Somebody asked me, where's all this information coming from in order to arrive at a price for XRP, acting as the token of liquidity for the entire global marketplace? There is historical math. There are fathers of math. There are gentlemen throughout time who have made significant discoveries about what God has already done when he created nature and the universe. So I would include these people, these gentlemen, as those on my team. We start with Pythagoras, Euclid, Leonardo da Pisa, or Fibonacci, Leonardo da Vinci, Euler, Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, W.D. Gann, and Edgar Dijkstra, if that's how it's pronounced. Excuse me for the misrepresentation or the mispronunciation. These are the most respected people in the mathematics world. And we know that everything related to the buyback is based on math. Why math? Math is the universal language of the world. Every single nationality and country speaks math in one common language, numbers. And that was the approach that was used in order to arrive at a result or a product which would be a value for XRP in its proper usage, in its utility, and what it was created to do, in conjunction with the XRPL, which is the quantum financial system. No one had any idea where all this was headed. NASARA, quantum internet, speed of light transactions, the need for not having a provider, unhackable, speed of light. And this is what I based my model on in order to arrive at the price. And you'll see the way the price was determined, it wasn't where I started. And if you take away anything from this video, take that away. That this isn't based on my opinion. It's not based on speculation. It's based on looking at the need for the world and then using that in relationship to the number of tokens minted for XRP to arrive at the value. That value doesn't change. It's written in stone. There's only one way that value changes. The number of tokens that XRP has and the amount of capital required to ensure or backstop everything in the world, all the global financial markets. And one of the things that may not have been represented, or let me put it this way, disclosed sufficiently, is not only does this determination have to take into consideration what we call all the money, but then you add to that the value of all the goods. So I'll cover that in a few minutes as we go through, but just let that sink in. It's twofold. The insurance company not only has to be able to provide insurance, but it has to have the assets to back it up. And then you also have the value of the insurance on the assets being covered. So it's like a double. Well, let's take a look at the XRP ledger and XRP. The ledger, otherwise known as the quantum financial system, this is God's system. This is not man's. This is not the New World Order. Has nothing to do with that. This is God's quantum financial system for the economy that he already created before time began. And now he's able to implement it and bring it into existence. It runs on free energy from Starlink. It needs no internet connection. It's unhackable. It operates at the speed of light. That's quantum. It provides unlimited storage. It stores all blockchain assets, NFTs, tokens, records, all daily institutional flow. XLM and other tokens will go through XRP in real time each day. And I'll qualify that. So it's very, very clear. Everything goes through XRP, period. Why? This is a requirement. That requirement isn't put onto XLM or any other token. That's part of the ISO 222 certification. All transactions must be 1, reported, 2, recorded, and 3, stored permanently on the QFS XRPL blockchain with no exceptions. This is the reason why it's called the XRPL and not XLML, HTCL, IOTA-L. No. No other token. XRP was designed, created, and given this level of governance. And this was agreed to by all the global powers that were part of the governance. They wanted the U.S. to control it, to be in charge. And there were specific things that they asked. And here's what they required. Instant liquidity with unlimited resources. It had to serve as a backstop or insurance to tokenize all global assets. And what happened as a result of that? All financial transactions run through XRP from the Starlink quantum internet. There's no need for an internet connection, no service provider. Again, it's unhackable. And the sheer vastness of quantum immediately allows for 100 quadrillion transactions per second at the speed of light. We know the speed of light, which means that because there is no hold on these transactions, it can operate based upon every single dollar of liquidity it has available per second. That's how I got to that. No retail holder was ever supposed to own it. Now, we're not going to go into why we were able to get it, but understand that we will not be able to continue to hold it in the future. It will be redeemed in what I coined as the XRP buyback, or the XRP buyback blessing. This is a blessing, people. It'll be 100% gold and asset backed. All retail holders will redeem and have their XRP bought back. And then here's just a couple little facts about that. XRP is the master key. You don't get your information from the day put onto the XRPL without it being stored, reported, and recorded. Period. So any transaction, let me rephrase it. Every single transaction that takes place during the day in the world, it has to go through XRP to be put onto the XRPL QFS. If it's not, it's an illegal transaction. Period. Every single asset that's on the XRPL QFS will have a blockchain identifier so it can be identified, including the rainbow currency. Here's a really interesting thing. You've heard me talk about the fact that the white hats and the military took back control of XRP back in 2015. Now, when XRP was originally created, as well as XLM, they were deep state projects, cabal. XRP was taken back over. And I said, Brad Garlinghouse, he came in. He's a good guy. And here's the proof in the executive orders as to when Brad came in. Executive Order 13694 on April 1st, 2015. Brad becomes Ripple's COO, April 2015. Executive Order 13757, December 28th, 2016. Brad's promoted to CEO in December 2016. All of this was covered in Executive Order 13849, signed September 20, 2018 by Donald Trump. The quantum financial system. What is it? It's a megalithic financial structure that has been given to mankind by the heavens. It's megalithic because it stands alone as the most advanced financial system that anyone can imagine. Who has it? The white hats in the military. They have it under control. It's operating on the Starlink quantum internet right now. It's been running for over 9 years, mirroring every single financial transaction in the world without error. Let me say that again. Without error. That one's for you, Mel Carmine. Without error. There is no peer of this technology on the earth. XLM doesn't have it. XDC doesn't have it. HBAR, IOTA. No one has this technology. Period. No banks. The cabal. Well, the cabal's done. They're over. This replaces the cabal. This is God's plan. And what are the three letters that start XRPL? XRP. That's your association. You want to run with the big dogs? That's the one you run with. That's the one that's going to make sure that every single transaction is reported, recorded, and stored forever and ever and ever. Every one of us has a quantum financial system account right now that's tied to Nasara. And it's also tied to the XRP and the XLM. It's been said that XLM will not have a buyback, period. That's not coming from me. That's coming from somebody else who has expertise in XLM. My expertise is in XRP. That's where the Lord put me to announce to the community, to the world, to the collective, to the XRP army, the XRP community, that there was a buyback that would happen. That term did not exist prior to me coming to Twitter on March 3rd, 2021. There had been talk about a much higher value for XRP than it was at the time, and that was $10,000 to $35,000. The QFS is housed in a mega quantum consciousness. We won't even go down that road right now. Feel free to read through this, understand it, make sense of it. It holds everything. It's a vault. Not only does it hold the money, but it holds the records. And the access key, the master key, and you have seen that so many times in all the gematria that I've done in over 2 years. That kept coming up over and over and over and over and over again. That keeps your information safe. Nobody can access it but you. This whole system will perform like the cloud, because as we know it, the cloud won't exist. It's part of the old system, and it's not coming into God's new economy. All other computer storage devices will become obsolete. And we'll have our own quantum computer and our own quantum phone, which is not Tesla, coming from the Redemption Center. It will store all of our records. All the records since banking began are on this system now. Every single digital asset is on the quantum financial system, the XRPL. Its history, who's owned it, who's bought it, who sold it, where they did it. There's nothing that isn't known. And that's good, people. Why is that good, Dave? Help me understand that. Isn't that an invasion of my privacy? Well, I hate to break this to everybody, but we don't have privacy anymore. We gave up our privacy a long time ago. We're photographed 160 times with biometric technology when we go to the airport. Every time you go to the grocery store, your biometrics are taken. I just got back from a cruise, was able to get, a nice little 7 days off to recuperate and just to get ready for now. And when we were leaving, DHS had a little terminal with a little iPad. And as I'm getting ready to walk out the door, the agent says, "Oh, you need to look over at the screen." And as I'm walking towards it, which I was about 20 feet away, as I'm walking towards it, I'm saying, "Do I have to take off my..." And before I could say hat, it gave me a green check mark. And she says, "You can go, you can go." It knew exactly who I was. Your phone listens to you 24 hours a day, and all of that information is put into text. Why is that important? Because it's enabled them over the last 6 years to apprehend evil, to find out about the cabal so they could be apprehended and removed from society. And I mean removed. period. God isn't doing all of this to allow evil to be enriched so it can become more of what it is. And that's why it's important, and that's why you should be cheering it on. And if you're not, why aren't you? Why aren't you? If you don't have anything to hide, then you want this. For that simple reason, there isn't going to be all of these things that we've had to grow up with going into God's new economy. And as he's continued to drip out this revelation, and mind you, it's been 2 years. Every single day, we're just hanging out, and he's just revealing things. And some things he says I can post. Other things he says it's not time yet. And there's even things that I don't even know. But I can tell you this, as soon as he shares it with me, 90% of the time he makes it possible for me to share it with you. And that's why I'm here. That's why he called me over to Twitter to be a messenger, to reveal his revelations. And oh, what a time we are living in right now. Wow. But there's some requirements, and you heard about that in the EBS video, the one before this. It sounds scary, but it's only scary if you're not for good. And I'll bring up a point, an interesting conversation with a near and dear friend, and I'll just keep it simple. He doesn't really want me to reveal who he is, but his initials are BG. And I pointed out the fact that with evil gone, there's so much that is going to take place. And that's why God is doing it now. See, we were held under a contract that didn't allow him to lift a finger to help us. Now we had Jesus, we had redemption through Jesus, so the sin condition of the world would be removed from us. It could never be used against us if the enemy took us to court with God. But that contract ended on December 21st, 2020. And that's relevant because you're going to hear about that in a little bit. But on that day, he declared, and I posted it, that this was his land, it was his time, and that we were going to be in eternal revival. And look what's happening all over the country. But I say that because there's a purpose behind all this. There's a humanitarian effort that is launched like nothing we will ever see again. So much money available to help mankind. And we all get to be part of it. Now, read about all this stuff in here, but understand that when that EBS goes off, we then begin to operate at the speed of light in the quantum realm in 5D. Now, that's not my level of expertise. I did a little bit of research, but this is what I can tell you. Man can only control 3 dimensions: length, width, and height. The 4th dimension we know about, which is time, and time only moving forward. In the 5th dimension, time can move backward and forward. You can't be in both places at one time. You can only be either forward in time or backward in time. But that's how it's unhackable. It can't be grabbed. And I got a graphic for that. But this whole system, this financial structure, it was created out of time and given to us in time. It's ancient technology. It's hundreds of millions of years old. Just blows my mind. Just incredible. The QFS is the XRPL, Starlink Quantum Internet. Space is the fifth dimension. Talks about XRP is the master key, what it does. It's the gatekeeper. Nothing becomes legitimized on the QFS XRPL without first going through XRP. And there's the other, I call Earth coins or Earth tokens, that are going to be doing all of the daily activity for all the transactions. XLM is going to be a workhorse. Workhorse. Thank you for XLM being there to do all that. And these other tokens. So here's Starlink. They just put up another 56 Starlink satellites. And each one of the satellites is equipped with LDN. So it can validate. Local decentralized nodes or distributive nodes are on each of the Starlink satellites. Buyback. Let's talk about the buyback. Hold on one second. Okay. XRP buyback reasons and process. A lot of people were gone this weekend over to Las Vegas for a big meet and greet. This is what I stayed to do, because this is why I'm here. I'm not here to become famous. I'm not here to do anything other than glorify my Father in heaven for having already done all this for us. That's where the praise and worship goes. That's where you look up. That's where you give thanks every day. It's not man. It's not me. It's not anybody. We're just the vessels, one little piece, as Charlie Ward would say. Each one of us has a little tiny piece in a task in this whole plan. We bring the best of ourselves, and we bring the best of what we do, and we put it together. And like myself, I present it without an opinion. I'm not here to gain approval. And again, I know you've heard me say this over and over again, but it's important because there's a lot of new people coming in. And I'm thankful that they're coming in when they're coming in. It's kind of like when I came into XRP. People had been in for years ahead of me. But I got to arrive at the end in order to do what he has me doing. I was on the first evaluation committee with Jimmy Vallee Capital. I generated the numbers for both the first two offers, $25,000 and $37,005. I'm on the third valuation committee to determine a pricing model for XRP. You'll see that in a little bit. This isn't guesswork. My background, 37 and a half years of accounting and taxation, 5 years doing forensic audit work to be presented to the FBI in prosecuting individuals for fraud, money laundering. I take what I do very, very seriously. This isn't a game. I'm not trying to win votes. I'm not trying to win likes. I do all of this without compensation. I don't believe in sponsors. Why? Because the moment you do that, you sold out to the sponsor. You're an agent. You're giving financial advice, whether you want to believe it or not. And that hasn't been working out too well for the people doing that. And I talked about that. The Lord had me message that in the very beginning. And understand people need to make a living. But I come from the position that my Father in heaven is my provider. He's my protector. He already knows what I need. And if I was out there trying to do something on my own, then I would be saying I don't believe he can do what he says he can do. Or that he already did what he already did. That's why 2 years ago he told me to put down everything I was doing. So I could focus on hearing from him and then presenting this to you. And again, I'm not judging. Like I said, I know people need to make a living. But there's a difference between making a living and using that for your own self-interest. So think about it. XRP, never intended to be a retail coin. The only reason why we were able to get it is because Trump didn't stay in the White House. And the Federal Reserve had to use the overnight option in order to temporarily hold what was going on. But that was also necessary because David Schwartz needed to do a few things on the XRPL in its interface with XRP and other tokens for the remittance and acceptance portion. And there was more evil that needed to be apprehended. And that was Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. Clawbacks. There's no volatility, and that's what the governance committee required. No volatility. That's why it can't be held. It won't be tradable. You won't be staking it. They wanted little to no cost. And once we get the buyback taken care of, the XRPL already operates on free energy. The only cost is associated with Ripple not being able to do their ICO yet and having the capital they need to operate. XRP is a liquidity provider, not a stablecoin. ATM, which is all the money valuation, was used to determine the value for XRP. And it avoids having to be price adjusted every single year or every couple of years until 2030, and that was a requirement. It provides the global markets with limitless liquidity. No internet connection. Again, these are things you already know. The valuation is what the price is determined to be at or in the year 2030. It's gold backed, it's asset backed. Our economy, as well as the world's, is now gold asset backed, or a particular asset that their country has an abundance of: gold, diamonds, oil, etc. I calculated the sheer cost of the buyback, and I'm not including what Ripple has purchased for their own self. And it's about a little over 1/2 of 1%. So that would equate to a $525,000 price tag per XRP to the retail holders. Real estate commissions are more than that. You tip a restaurant more than that. You tip when you get your hair is done, when your nails are done, when you get a massage. So don't worry about the cost. The money is already there. You're not paying for it. You're the recipient or the benefactor of the buyback. Chinese elders already put up all the money. And there's so much money. My gosh. We'll cover that. And then I want to give you a new revelation that's come as the result of doing these presentations and these interviews about the quantum financial system. Now, in the original buyback proposals, we talked about having liquidating agents and et cetera, et cetera. Well, now, with my understanding of the quantum financial system, there's no need for that. And I brought this up to the valuation committee, to Jimmy Valley. I brought this up to Molly, who's been the one to narrate what's going on. So in those meetings, I talked about this, I educated them on what was going on with the redemption centers, Nasara, quantum access accounts, all confirmed by Charlie Ward. This can all be done directly through the quantum financial system. What does that mean? All they have to do is announce the buyback. All of our XRP is already on the quantum internet because the XLM and the XRP account amounts sitting on the XRPL, they're mirrored. They're actually being mirrored to our quantum access account. All they do is establish the value. And instantly, our quantum access account reflects the buyback. So we don't have to go through all of this work of having attorneys who would have to be re-educated on quantum language, because the current language would not suffice in a contract for this. We wouldn't need PolySign to hold the XRP for us. I mean, they really don't hold it now. It's all held on the XRPL. Remember I talked about it would just be moving to a different folder in the same filing cabinet? Why go through all that hassle, that time, that delay? We're bringing Nasara right to the people. The AI computer has already determined how much each person is going to get. It's already figured out. It already knows how much we paid in income taxes. It already knows what how much we borrow for student loans, what the interest was. So there's the Nasara part, which is the restoration of everything that was stolen in every generation before us. And the Lord had me post on that. And he took me all the way back to the Mayan calendar, so he showed me the timeline. Now it's easy. And it was so interesting. I'm working on all this, and I just updated the slide the other day, and of course, I've been wanting to get this done, and the Lord's like, just relax. And one of the people that follows me, Matt Riley, shout out to Matt, he sends me a DM, and it's like he was reading my mail. And he says something to the effect, well, wouldn't this all be easier if it was just done through the QFS? And I just responded. I said, Matt, man didn't tell you this. This had to come from my Father in heaven. And he got that revelation last Friday, or what is it, 2 days ago. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the Lord is moving to share information and revelation to other people as confirmation. I mean, there's people that confirm things that the Lord has said to me that I haven't told anybody. So think about that. See, the compliance for all this is off planet. Excuse me, I just had this big heat wave come through here and I'm just like really dehydrated. Plus I've had this cold, like I said. And oh man, I tell you. So when we think about the buyback now, this is done with the stroke of one pen. We already know the number. Jimmy Valley knows that number now. I showed him that number. It was in my white paper. And that number grows every single day by, 130 something bucks. And if you've gone and you've seen the video and you've looked through the information that I posted back in January, which I had done in the middle of 2022, it's all there. It's basic base 10 math. And the people that understand it, they get it. They don't need to go into a long explanation of the why or the how, because they know everything is operating on that right now. That's what Wall Street works on right now. So think about it. Imagine walking in and what if it was at the Redemption Center? You make it through the first station and you look at your quantum account balance and you say, oh, by the way, that includes the buyback for XRP. It was at X amount. And it's a high six-figure number. They know, they've been watching. They know that my math is right. They know that this is God's plan. And they're not going to mess it up. They know that. You think they're gonna take the time to mess up God's plan so they can say they were in control? They know they're not in control. They know God's in control. And I know they're watching what's going on. I know they're watching the revelation and the truth that he has me posting. That's not for my glory, it's for his. But who's the winner? I said this on Charlie's show. I said it on all the shows with Nick and everybody else, Susan, Dr. Kia. Now we're on the Trump News channel. Restored Republic. Before it's news. Humanity is the winner. Humanity, people. God is not giving this restoration blessing for his new economy going forward, which is based upon love and good, to evil. And you've heard me say this before. 18 years ago when I went and stood in the gap for everybody in 2004, and I told the Lord that we needed more time so we could come to know him. And he said we have at least 50 years. He told me he couldn't give me what I had desired in my heart, and that was to have the finances of heaven flow through my hands. Amen. Let me tell you what that felt like. But he told me this. He said, Dave, my no is not no, it's just not right now. Because he said, if I gave this to you now, Dave, it would take you away from me. You would use it in the world, and the world would consume you, and I would lose you. And he says, because I don't want to lose you, I can't give it to you now. Ladies and gentlemen, I spent 18 years to get my heart right for now. I had to let go of the pride and the ego and the desire to be important to man. I got on my face and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And then I learned how to enter into the throne room, how to give him thanks and praise, which is his language in heaven. I received Jesus as my Lord and Savior. So the Holy Spirit dwells within me. I have the mind of Christ, and if you've done the same, so do you. But what did that do? It allowed me to free myself of the desires of this world, so that I desired him more than anything else. And that's what it takes, people. That's how he knows you're ready to come home and to begin to work on the projects that he has intended for you in this next phase with the humanitarian projects. So I'm so excited for everybody because I know mankind is ready for this. Oh, give me just a second. So why does everything go through XRP? And it might be better said, how does everything get onto the QFS called XRPL? And as I pointed out before, it goes through the master key, which is XRP, and that's the requirement. And you can read through this. This is all great information. Why does everything go through XRP? XRP holds the patents. Do you think the Lord for one instant is going to let anybody else control his gate? Is going to take possession of his key and do something with it that he never intended it to do? Come on. Heck no. I don't even have the 2022, let alone 2023 on here. And look at the patents. Look at the patents. He made sure, and he continues to make sure, nothing stops his plan and his purpose. I apologize for the smallness of this, but go Google Ripple patents. Take a look. Absolutely incredible. I just came out the other day and they said that they're working on, oh gosh, excuse me, but I forgot what it was called. But it's just one more function that sets them apart. Just like it said, no peer can even compete. Now, this has always been a great question. The new person or the person stuck on market cap. They're trying to put XRP in the same light as everything else. That's like taking a spacecraft and comparing it to automobiles. Not the same. But you're like, that spacecraft, it costs $1 million. Yeah, but a car only costs 39 cents. That spacecraft can't be worth $1 million. That's my analogy. That's the disconnect that people have. Because they truly don't understand, number one, what XRP was designed to do. Number two, what it's part of. So you have XRP, XRPL, and quantum financial system. It's the triad, it's the trio, it's the three amigos. And I explained it this way when the question came up when I was being interviewed by Nick Veneman. On the earth right now, XRP can handle 1,500 transactions per second. On the quantum internet, it can handle 100 quadrillion per second. So think of it this way. Excuse me. If we equate that to dollars, so 1,500 transactions at 39 cents, or 100 quadrillion transactions equals $24 million per XRP. Well, let's just slide that back and say, what if XRP, well, with XRP at $1 million, how many transactions per second would need to be done? 4.164 billion transactions per second. Well, what is that in terms of an efficiency percentage based upon what the maximum is? And we're using the 100 quadrillion per second as our 100% representation. It only needs to do 4.17% of the 100 quadrillion transactions per second to justify a value of $1 million. So the quantum financial system, the quantum internet, is about speed. It's also about transactions. Price discovery. We go back and we look at the lawsuit that was filed the day after the contract ended with the devil by Jay Clayton, under whose direction at the time? The lawsuit was dropped on December 22nd. Now, what was that all about? There has been a sting operation going on. You've heard me say this before. This is for the new people. That goes to Bitcoin, it goes to Ethereum, and it goes to a whole host of other things, FTX, etc. Why? To expose evil. Everything that took place on Bitcoin was put onto the XRPL. Same thing with Ethereum, all the banking records, transaction records, FTX. It was all being monitored in real time, off planet, using AI and resources that we can't even begin to imagine right now. Why was this lawsuit even put onto Ripple? Well, let's go back and look at what happened in the first meeting with Judge Torres back in January of 22. As I'm told, during that meeting, Ripple attorneys, SEC attorneys, and Judge Torres, they're getting ready to get started. Judge Torres says, excuse me, but I need some clarity from you, SEC, on what has been done illegally. And she says, so it's my understanding that SEC, you're saying that all of the sales to the retail holders, as well as the escrow, was done illegally. The SEC attorney flies out of his chair, tells the judge, no. That's not what this is about. We don't have any problem with the secondary market purchases of XRP. All we care about is the escrow. Now here's where it gets interesting. Gary Gensler over at MIT, in his class, I have the notes, I have the proof. It was, I believe it was course 21. It was on page 7. And in the video he says, which I understand, I guess has been pulled down, He says, so what do you do when you bring your new coin and you want the bankers involved? And he says, well, you have to do like this other company did, and you have to give up 50% of your equity. You have to give up 50% of your equity to play ball with Wall Street. Then we come to find out that's exactly what the CEO of Library said happened to him. So Gary Gensler says this in 2018. In 2022, the CEO of Library says this. Don't you think that this happened to Ripple? Quote, XRP? Yes. So what the Lord had revealed from day one was that the SEC was brought in to protect XRP. Almost like a marshal. So XRP is like in witness protection. Because this sting operation has been going on for, over 5 years. Well, actually probably closer to 7 now. And it's wound down. So they know who the bad guys are. They've clawed back all of those tokens. Those tokens are going to be used for the humanitarian projects. So the case doesn't need to be resolved. It really doesn't. That's why delay. I remember right before I issued the Lord's first reveal, which was Great Reveal on May 13th, which is Ascension Day, I was concerned about the material, so I got a hold of Jeremy Hogan. Finally got a call back from him at like 9 o'clock his time in Florida, and I explained the whole situation to him. What I had been told, what I uncovered. And as you see, his response was, so you're telling me this is all just smoke and mirrors? He couldn't believe it. So he's one of the actors participating now, having known this information. And there's many others involved. And I'm not saying this in judgment. I'm just saying this has all been theater. Said that from day one. They're just been pushing this out to get to the point where Nasara becomes activated. So think about that. There's so much time and effort that's being spent to be upset with the judge. Why aren't we getting this? Why isn't it being relisted? Well, guys, it isn't going to be relisted, and I've said that from day one. Every time somebody wants to start the relist XRP campaign, because they don't want more evil coming in to buy it. Period. They don't want it going to the exchanges who were staking it illegally, because we were holding it. We weren't doing anything, and they were staking it, and they were making money just like the banks did when we made deposits. You want to talk about something, talk about that. That's why I wouldn't have any coin on an exchange. They're all just as guilty as banks. Now, did they disclose that? No. Why do you think we had such a heck of a time getting our XRP off of another exchange? Delay without any explanation. Well, Lord told me why. They had staked so much XRP and they were locked into commitments that they couldn't allow us to move our tokens because they were in a aggregated account in their name. And that's how they did it. Coinbase did it. Uphold did it. Binance did it. And there's many others. They all did it. Don't leave anything on those exchanges, on those platforms. Period. Move it off through a Ledger Nano and have it on the XRPL with you holding the 24 keys. All it's going to do is move out of the exchange or platform's name into a what I like to call an anonymous sub-account that you hold the 24 passphrases to claim. Hence the term, not your key, not your crypto or keys. That's why the lawsuit happened, to buy time. Now everybody's starting to catch on. But nobody wanted to believe this back in April of 2021 when the Lord had me revealing this. I was the guy that was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But now you're all getting to see the revelation and the truth for God's plan and his purpose. Hallelujah. Price discovery. It's all about clues, people. Been able to crack every single clue, not because of who I am, but because of God's infinite wisdom and my commitment to him to share this with everybody. And I do it for free. I don't charge a Discord. I don't hide it behind a wall. It's all here. It's in plain sight. If you're willing to listen, if you have eyes to hear, eyes to see and ears to hear. But there's a lot of great clues. What you have to understand, there's words. Okay? There are levels of liquidity that can support value exchange on a more global scale. And I have little doubt that will continue to grow by orders of magnitude in the coming years. Well, orders of magnitude, I did a post on that, and it's all about base 10 math. And he also had another interview they did back in 2018, and he talked about order of magnitude, dozens. And there's other things. I mean, I could not get all this into one video. So this is just the first part. So I kind of give you a smorgasbord of things rather than just trying to concentrate in one area so you can see exactly what's been taking place. And of course, here's the Ripple logo coming up off of this little, looks like iPad. And there's binary code written right here that says XRP. Now, if you take this swirl, it matches up to a base 10 diagram that I did for Val Hill Capital for Jimmy Valley, showing the lifting of boxes. And I also did the reveal about the Ripple logo and how it comes right back to the $1 million price tag. Here's more correspondence coming from Brad. But this is the pearl right here. Ripple means exchange of value. Nobody else in the world offers exchange of value. Which means there is no face-to-face competition for Ripple. Probably will never be, because the main advantage that Ripple has and nobody else has is XRP. If this doesn't say enough to help you make an informed decision and stop listening to all the FUD and stop trying to trade and use technical analysis to make pennies. I mean, people, you're tripping over pennies on the way to dollars. And that's a trader's term. I've been trading since 1997. Wall Street, stock market, futures. You don't need to drive yourself crazy in an environment that you can't win. Look at the clues. They're hiding in plain sight. That's for you, Coach JV. Thanks for pointing that out. When I first got started, I watched one of his videos. And he said, you have to understand how to look at things. When they're asking you to look to the right, you got to look to the left. Been a very valuable information for me. Again, thank you so much. Here's an interview. Like I said, here's the one he did in 2018. Where if you read the question, he's not even answering the question. He's giving you what he needs to give. And here's how you look at order of magnitude. I got to pick it up. During this process of doing the white paper for the valuation committee, he began to show me, as he revealed the quantum internet, that it's multidimensional. And what I saw was something like this. Okay. And this is where the keyhole was right here. And these are all of the golden section boxes. And they were turning. And this box was turning this way. And this box was turning this way. And then they moved counter to one another. And I called it the quad spiral. The moment you began to enter into this, it then changed again to where in literally real time, at the speed of light or beyond, what was no longer. And then it was brand new, 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 and then it was brand new. Completely unhackable. Now, I've come to learn from him why. Because it's moving backward and forward in time. And we can't chase time forward or backward. Nobody can. That's why this is hundreds of millions of years old. Here's just a couple of diagrams that I put together with regards to how the valuation at $1 million is 10 to the 6th power. And again, this is all math, people. This is perfect math. There's nothing more perfect than math. 1 plus 1 equals 2. Does the number 2 change in that equation? No. You either have to change the first one or change the second one. So if I say 1 plus 2 is, it's no longer 2, it's now 3. So the only way the product or the result can change is if one of the two components or variables changes. And again, this is the basic framework for everything in nature and the universe. And he holds everything together with math. I used to say it's all in the math. And he corrected me. Then I said, it's in the math. And he corrected me. And he said, it is the math. And that's where he began to help me understand 369 and what Nikola Tesla had to say. And I understand it now. He gave me full awareness. I'm throwing this in because this was a clue. Again, Coach JV talked about how they hide these clues in movies and etc. So I started to go back, and this particular revelation using the Emoji Movie, go watch the last 15 minutes of the Emoji Movie. It's the story of XRP designed to save the world. And this is just a decode that I did. You can go in and take a look at all this information about the characters. And there's some information up here about the emojis. That was in 2017. And the other movies I'm going to cover in the other videos, but we've got Snow White, we've got Contact, we have the Emoji Movie, we have Outer Banks Season 3, Episode 1. But this is what I posted back in June of 2021. And this was the decode that I did. That's XRP right there, people. That's the shield. That's God in control, taking care of everything. And look what that is in the upper left-hand corner. Twitter. He revealed it all on Twitter. And then you can see what some of the other ones look like. Now, I went to look for other coins on here, and I couldn't find them. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Went to look. Couldn't find them. Nothing here. Nothing here. We talk about perfect math. There is a natural, universal order to everything. An order of magnitude approximates the logarithmic value relative to some contextual, understood reference value, which is 10. You can come in here and read. Well, we'll cover this in a second. Hold on. We'll cover that in a second. I got to remember where to put my cursor. I'm pointing at the wrong thing, so I apologize for that. So when you come down here, and again, this is in the other white paper, it's in the other videos, but each one of these boxes, we start with 10 to the first power. 10 to the second power. 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. So this caps out at 100,000 right here. Well, in base 10 math, if the amount that you're looking at goes above 25% of the next higher square, then you have to go all the way to the top of the value. So this is how I explained it to Jimmy Valley. I said, Jimmy, once the need exceeds 200, well, let me back up. This is how it works for price. It works the same way when you're looking at all the money. So this could be right down here, 10 to the 16th power, and then all the way up here is 10 to the 17th power, which is the $100 quadrillion you're going to see soon, which you already know about. This is what gives us the flexibility to know that we're not having to go back and reprice XRP every other year because the economy didn't grow at 8.5%. It grew at something substantially higher. And I already know what that exact percentage is. Well, I'm not going to say it right now. And I've also been able to prove mathematically that this $1 million valuation for XRP will go to $1 billion by the year 2062. I've mathematically proved it. And again, there's so much information here. This is like a master's PhD course. If we really sat down and wanted to go through all of the understanding. But see, I did all this so you don't have to. This is 8th grade math. It's just basic geometry. And also what came into place for determining the valuation for all the money. Okay? Remember I said there's a process in order to calculate this. You can't start trying to determine the value of XRP. You have to determine the amount of liquidity needed for the world. That's where you start. That's your first variable. We already know what the number of coins are. That's 100 billion. So that would have been our second variable, but we already know what it is. So all we're really doing is we're saying how much money do we need? And we divide that by 100 billion coins, and that tells us what the product or result is for the value for XRP through 2030. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, there's no way. There's no way. The value is way, way, way too high. Well, let me tell you this. You don't understand how much money is out there in the world. I certainly didn't have an understanding of it. Let me tell you what I knew. I knew that the Chinese elders had put up 10 to the 45th power in gold to fund Nasara. That's 1 with 45 zeros. We're talking about the entire insurance pool or the liquidity pool that XRP would allow access to being 10 to the 17th power. It's $100 quadrillion. So in the valuation committee, a document was provided that showed 300 world banks had come together in the 60s, and they all had to show how much money they were putting up to be pooled or available. Now, just the Federal Reserve, they had 10 to the 60th power, and then 10 million metric tons of gold that they would be paid 4% per annum on. The Federal Reserve would not let banks, under Brent Woods, they would not let banks hold gold and earn interest on it. The Federal Reserve held the gold and got paid interest on it. The World Bank. So here's the Federal Reserve. The World Bank, down here, number 2, they had an infinity sign. Where is it? Infinity. Right in here. There's infinity sign for number 3, IMF. Couldn't even quantify the value. So they just put infinity. Chinese elders only put up 10 to the 45th power. So with this understanding, there's no objection to the liquidity pool necessary to provide insurance for all the global markets and the tokenization and value of all those assets at 10 to the 17th power. Math proves it. Math proves it. I've even heard recently that the entire amount of money that they have identified has 3,600 zeros. Bank of Switzerland had over 200 zeros, and that was just one of 12 banks. We have been trained that we can't think past $1 million, let alone $1 billion with 9 zeros. So this is proof that the valuation is easily acceptable for everybody that comes to understand what's in the world and just basic math. Basic math. I went in and took a look at the XRP logo, and it's based upon base 10 perfect proportion. I then broke the logo up into waves, and I measured the waves. And then here's a list of the assumptions that were in the white paper that I did for the committee. You can read down through them. There was $14.3 quadrillion that the Federal Reserve borrowed. And they used every single person in the United States and all the real estate as collateral. I factored in the quantum internet. I factored in the population receiving the Nasara. I put in every single assumption that I could reasonably provide an estimate for. BIS and the world have off-balance sheet derivatives over 80 trillion. There's unfunded pension and Social Security liabilities. You can look through here. Here's the actual document showing what the Federal Reserve borrowed. How much is all the money? Read through the transactions and what's been recorded. This gives you an understanding of what XRP does for the XRPL quantum financial system. This talks about the idea and why it eludes us. We went in and we found the hackers for the election. It was all sponsored by the Vatican based upon the executive order that Trump signed. They went in and seized all the assets of the Vatican. And in there, they found a tunnel. And in the first 150 miles, they found 1.7 billion troy ounces, or $3.5 quadrillion in gold. That was just in the tunnel from the Vatican to Jerusalem. No report on the value of the tunnel between the Vatican and Switzerland. Remember that scene in National Treasure, looking for the city of gold, El Dorado? 650 cargo planes have been flying it back to Cheyenne Mountain. So what do we need to do? I came up with this little saying. We have to raise our consciousness until it fills our brainlessness. Me too. This has been a growth experience for me to get out the garbage, the programming, the MK Ultra programming. Here's what I did. Here's the process. This goes all the way back to a reveal that I did in June of 2021, where I estimated based upon information that was provided as to what all the money represented. And I came to $1.75 quadrillion right down here. And there was a discount for market fluctuations. And then there was a risk-adjusted coverage ratio. You could consider that, a hedge, so to speak. So we started with 1.75 quadrillion. Then I created this model right here. And I'm working to put that into a program that I can put on a website. So if you want to play with it, you can. But what it does, it shows the 1.75 quadrillion right here. It picks up all the adjustments to the valuation of all the assets for 2022. It picks up the Federal Reserve loan. It picks up quantum increases, Nasara, capital inflows, the XRP buyback, the off-balance sheet items, unfunded pensions. And with that coverage ratio adjustment, it's kind of a multiple. We get to 29.178 quadrillion. And remember what I said, once we hit 25 quadrillion, we have to go up to the next highest value in that box, and that's 100 quadrillion. And that's right here. So this worksheet forces the value based upon the algorithm and what the instructions are in the programming. So here we are at 29 quadrillion, and here we are in model number 4 with a square root of 17 as our coverage ratio, and we're still in 10 to the 17th power. Lots of room. Lots of room for growth in our economy. So what is the formula that gets us there? And remember, it's all about ATM. So the pure math proof, the perfect math proof for calculating it, and that what I call the quantum liquidity reserve, quantility. Quan means substance, and then tility has various meanings in other cultures, but it all comes back to what's holding all this together. That's God. So the equation is all the money, and in this particular case, I quantified it after discounting it 99% back to the 29.2 quadrillion. We divide that by the total number of minted coins, which was the 100 billion XRP. So ATM, total minted coins, that equals the result or the product, which would be the value for XRP going forward. So 100 quadrillion divided by 100 billion, and we're not going to factor in, burn rate or lost tokens or anything like that. We're just going to, simple math. There's a reason why 100 billion was minted, and that gives us the $1 million value. Plain and simple. What does it look like? Well, here's $100. Here's $10,000. Here's a little stack of money, $100 bills. That's $1 million. Here's $100 million. There's $100 billion. And then this is what? One stack, one column is $1 trillion. But this is square. This is solid. It's a lot of money. But you know what? There's a lot of assets. And there's even more assets with Nasara. And then the assets that are going to be purchased. And the humanitarian projects. David Schwartz loves to throw little clues out there, whether he's making fun of what's going on or that's his way of saying, yeah, I agree. I cracked all the codes on 589, and I actually did a reveal on getting to $589,000 using the Simpson chalkboard example. And it's on my Twitter page. I'm going to go ahead and make myself a note. And when I do the editing, I'm going to go ahead and put that into the presentation here so you can see it. So what I'll say is, and here's what that particular reveal looks like. So take a moment and take a look at that. And then you can go look for it over at Twitter at XRPLion1. But using my second model, which is a strictly base 10 model, not the original model that I created, which was the XRP v10. It shows us that on May 3rd, the value was exactly 589,000. Pretty cool. And this is what it would look like if you're looking at the three models that I put together. We're just going to stick with model 1. And then we're going to take a look at the debt clock. and how the debt clock had a reveal. And Mel Carmine sent me this little picture, and he said, "Hey Dave, ask the Lord to help you break this code." Well, and this is what the code was. This is how it numbered out. And interestingly enough, both values, the 530,100 and the 589,000, both came out with the same valuation for the same day, May 3rd. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So how do we get there? We talked about this. That's all about the transactions, quantum internet speed, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the information that was in my January reveal with regards to the models. At the end of December 22, we had this valuation for Model 1, for Model 2, and for Model 3. Now, if we come over here, this is the XRP V10, which is Model 1. And you can see the ending value right here at 513. This does all the math. And at the end of April 30th, we were at $429,722.92. And it grows by about $138 to $140 a day. So here's what the valuation will be at the end of May and June and July. So it's just costing more money to not announce. But what's more important? You remember my prior post, the Lord said, moving to SARA and all of its functionality into the first position was most important. Why? So God's people would be getting the money they need because everybody's living paycheck to paycheck. 90% of the public is one paycheck away from bankruptcy. And then when the XRP buyback happens, nobody is going to be upset at this huge blessing because they have their own blessing. That's why all this is tied together. That's why that revelation that the Lord shared with Matt Riley on Friday, while everybody was in Las Vegas, and I was working to put all this together, confirms exactly what he told me. And one of the things we talked about in the valuation committee was it has to be simple. Even Jimmy said that to the group. Guys, it has to be simple. There's nothing simpler than this. And then to have that all put right onto the QFS. You be the judge. Then I went back in and I figured out the gold asset backing based upon the same base 10 math, based upon the same ratios for the golden rule, based upon other clues that were provided. I was able to prove that 62.5% of the backing for gold for XRP and what that valuation is by 2030. 37.5% will be silver and other precious metals. We got nickel, palladium, platinum, copper. So we're right here in year 6. And then I put down what these would be in ounces and pounds, depending upon whether they want to do in ounces or pounds. But I brought up the idea in the valuation committee. I said, XRP joined the pound foundation, not the ounce foundation. Think about that. We don't need to do this in ounces. We really don't. But see, here's the revelation. These precious metals have already been given a value. Look at the important key at the bottom. The price for the asset backing precious metals has already been determined. And I've said this for a while. the amount for each for USTC, United States Treasury, currency, whatever, XRP, XLM, XDC, IOTA, etc. will be secured and a certified title will be recorded and stored on the XRPL QFS at that price. So if we come over and let's just say that we establish that price here, any remaining precious metals not certified onto the XRPL QFS will become ordinary commodities, and they will trade at whatever the market determines for their use as jewelry and other consumer uses. So if you want to talk about gold, silver being used in computers or electronics, it's going to have a value not much more than what it is right now. Why? Because it was not used to back the currency or the digital assets. It doesn't need, nor will it carry that kind of a value. Now, I bring this up because this could make it such that they are significantly lower than the value given than those that are certified to go on the QFS XRPL. See, once they give it that value, I mean, they give gold right now, $1 million a pound. Silver, $125,000 a pound. That'd make it 8-to-1. Need 8 silvers to get 1 gold. It's not the other way around. 8 silvers to get 1 gold. That's 8-to-1. Could be 4-to-1. Could be 250,000 for silver for a pound, and $1 million a pound for gold. But that value is what backs XRP. That's the value that backs XLM and these other coins. Because remember, it's going to be a combination of 62.5% of that metal for that particular coin, gold for XRP, silver for XLM, etc. And the other 37.5% will be made up of the other precious metals at their price. Now, I've got gold about, well, let me just say it's not these values, because these are only the certified values. Because nobody would buy gold at $1 million a pound to use it for jewelry. No, it's being used as insurance. Because it's certified. And it sits on the QFS. So, unfortunately, if you're out there, buying gold and silver, it's not going to be certified to be on the QFS. It's going to be in your safe. It's going to be in a repository. What good is it? The only thing you can do is turn it in for its value as a commodity. $3,000 to $4,000. 3,900 and $6.25 right here on the low end. $6,250 on the high end. So who's making out right now? The ones selling the gold and the silver to you. Now you're going to make a profit, right? And it's going to take time for that value to go up. I mean, all this goes off. You don't need necessarily, sell it all off. But you're not going to have these kinds of values. These are only the values for what's certified on the quantum financial system. You're not going to have a way to take, your gold at $1 million worth of gold that you've bought over the last 10 years and get it certified for use on the quantum financial system. No, you're going to be holding a commodity. And I know that's going to be hard for some people to accept or understand. But that's just the truth of it. I mean, a 50% return on gold, or 3 times return on gold right now, exceptional. Should be very happy. And you're going to see it. This came up the other day, and it was in the EBS video that I did. I'm going to try to wind this down real quick. Just gives you an idea of the $100 bill, and the fact that in the 2009 series for the $100 bill, Rosie Rios, she was the Treasurer of the United States. It was displayed April 10th, 2010, and then it went into circulation in 2013, October 28th, 2013. It shows everything with relationship to what was going to take place. So I saw this $100 bill on a video. My buddy with the initials BG sent it to me, and God just dropped the revelation on it. So to the left, this is the old fiat system. There's a timeline on the bottom. It has to do with our buying power moving from 1955 to now, and then how our buying power goes back up 6.25 times, which is the golden rule number, to get us back up to $1 in buying power with our gold asset-backed U.S. currency, a rainbow currency. Because the fiat dollar had been deflated because of inflation and everything else, being non-asset backed, down to 16 cents. And here's the story. The story is, it's going around, hey, our price is going to go back to 1955. The answer is no, period. And this is the explanation why. A $10 million house is not going to drop to $1.6 million. A $10 million house is not going to drop to $1.6 million. And you're going to get all of this Nasara money and the XRP buyback money. And then you're going to go out and buy houses at 16 cents on the dollar. That is not going to happen. What they don't understand and what they're not comprehending is the fact that we're not talking about the price. We're talking about the buying power. Okay? The moment your buying power goes up 6.25 times, that $10 million house is now $12.5 million. You have so much money now, do you care that it went up by $2.5 million? No. What you know is you want that house, and you're going to pay an extra $2.5 million for it because it's not costing you anything. So there's going to be a period of time when assets go up because there's so much money out there, and people are going to spend money on the things that they want, and then prices will come down a little bit, but not much from there. Why? Because you have so many more buyers now with so much more money that the buyer is in control. And that's not a bad thing, because we're not going to have income taxes in the future. We just have consumption tax, 14% on everything that's new, excluding food, etc. So I just want to clear that up for the last time. Prices are not going back to 1955. 1955 was the first year that the minimum wage went to $1. And interestingly enough, the dollar has gone down 1,116%. There's your 16 cents that's left right now. Let's go to the back of the bill. This was really, really intriguing. I started to look at the back of the bill. I'm sorry, it was October 8th, right there. And I started counting the little 100s that were on the left-hand side, like the fiat currency side. And it was 8. And there's only 7 on the right-hand side. Well, what was this telling us? Well, it was telling us that the dollar was dead. We didn't have the $100. And in the EBS video, I talk about the fractionalization of our money system. The $1 bill, as I learned from Captain Kyle and Major Freddie, was the only real money that we had. From the $2 to the $100 bill, it was all fractionalized. It was the $1 over the value of the higher bill. So it was a fraction. So 1 divided by 100 is 1 penny. And what the cabal did is, in the deep state, they used this money, which wasn't backed by anything, to use its face value to acquire everything. And then make sure that they stripped us of any money we had with taxation on everything over and over and over again. So I did a little analysis on the dates, and you can see that down here. And I did a little analysis on the count for the number of 100s. And lo and behold, it provided a date. Now again, I caution you that the Lord has had me tell everybody over and over and over again since 2012 not to use dates the way people want to use dates. There is something happening with this plan, God's plan and purpose, every single day, whether we know it or not. From the removal of evil to the redemption centers being ready to go, our gold-backed currency system coming into play, 209 countries agreeing to come into Nasara, over 109 countries now part of BRICS. It calculated 342 days since the agreement was signed where we had gold-backed currency. That was on July 24, 2022. So if we count 342 days from July 24th, 22, it takes us to July 1st of 23. And then I wrote down here, Independence Day is here. Now I had a meeting with BG, and he goes, "Oh," he says, "I see you put Independence Day here." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Did you know this building is called Independence Hall?" And my eyes got really big, and my mouth was probably on the desk, and I said, "No." And he goes, well, look, it's Independence Hall. This isn't by accident, people. You can't make this up. You can't. And this is what God has been revealing since April 3rd of 2021. Just these little tiny bits that I just keep posting, revealing. And some people get it, most people don't. Now, I'll tell you why people want a date. And this is for everybody else out there that is being asked the same question. whether you're 107 or you're SA Gion, excuse me if I pronounce anybody's name incorrectly. Why would somebody want to know the date? When is the EBS going to happen? That's the number one question. What's the date? What's the date? And I was leaning into the Lord and I said, Lord, why is everybody so fixated on a date? And I was shocked at the answer he gave me. He said, Dave, they want to know how much longer they can continue to play in sin. So that way the day before they can stop. So if that's you, this is your come to Jesus moment. He's exposed what's in your heart. I don't judge you. He wants you home. He wants you to regain and claim your title as his son or daughter to receive this inheritance. Only the pure of heart are going through the redemption center. It's a wake-up call. So if you're watching this and you're one of those people that is so fixated on a date, check your heart. Get in a quiet place and ask the Lord, Lord, is that why I keep asking? Is that why I don't have any peace about this yet? Just see what he says. It rocked me. So I pray for you guys every day. I don't want there to be one lost. Market crash. We talked about this in EBS. This market crash isn't a crash like we've ever seen before. I had identified a meltdown, then a shutdown, which results from a black swan event, EMP, power grid, etc. He clarified that, and what he said was, and he told me this back in 2021, he said, I'm not allowing anything from the past to go into my kingdom on earth. That's the QFS. And again, this whole time, remember, he keeps bringing me back full circle. And he said, I'm just going to shut it off. Now, Jerome Powell has already announced back in 2021 that he had the emergency switch set in all world markets. He can flip the switch and turn everything off. That's your flip the switch moment, people. That's what it means. I misunderstood it. Now I understand it. The moment that switch gets flipped, and that happens simultaneously with the EBS being announced, and it'll happen when the markets are closed, that will give a price point for everything that was traded in the market. And why is that important? Well, right now, all of our money in the bank is mirrored onto the quantum financial system for your account. Nothing in the brokerage accounts is being mirrored except for retirement accounts. They've already come out and said that those are going to be guaranteed. And when I say guaranteed, what I'm saying is they're going to take the last available balance, and that's what's going to go onto your quantum financial system account. Now, for the market to have a meltdown, and in normal trading hours, for it to go, let's say Apple, this example I used in the EBS video, Apple's at 145 in your IRA. The market goes into a free fall. It's at $25. And then everything shuts off. it would not be fair to give you in your IRA or your retirement account $145 value when the last posted value was $25. So in order to avoid that, they're just going to turn it off. Because the old banking system isn't coming in, and neither is the stock market. Now, I've identified and I've reported that when the market goes down, all the cloud goes down, etc., exchanges, etc. Why do we just turn it off? They just turn it off so nobody panics. Everybody, the 99.99999% of the people that aren't hearing this message are going to be in the EBS and they're going to be talking and say, well, what about our money in the, in a brokerage account? Oh, well, the market has gone down before and they turned the market off. Remember 9/11? On 9/11, the Lord told me the market was going to be closed all week. Told me to go back to bed. So I didn't trade, went back to bed. Got up later in the afternoon and they said, oh, the market's closed for this week. It'll be something similar to that. Why? Nobody panics. Nasara will come out. Everybody will get their Nasara money, their millions, tens of millions. They get their XRP buyback money. Nobody cares about the stock market at that point. I certainly wouldn't put money back into that kind of a system. And he's not going to allow that to happen in his new system. There's a completely different agenda and a direction. It's about humanity. It's not about sitting back and trying to earn money doing nothing. Remember the parable of the talents? No. So he identified to me that, and I posted this, that the market is going to go offline and it could be offline 6 to 18 months. And that's if anything comes back at all. Because we don't need it. We don't need the stock market. Any of these companies that were involved in anything evil, they're not coming back. There's no reason to have corrupt CEOs and business practices to try to earn revenue increases, to pay shareholders that do nothing. So I imagine every company is going to go back to being private. Everybody gets paid out in the QFS for whatever the last balance amount was for what they had before it all gets shut down. So it burns up. You just don't get to see it burn. And like I said, that's why it has to have a value. And what's taking place right now is the increase to make up for what has been lost in the retirement accounts over time. Now get this. He told me the other day that short selling was going to be discontinued. Just like I told you in the other videos how Obama passed the rule that if you were, I was already short, and he says, oh, if you're short in the market, you have to close out your trades on Monday morning when the market reopens. I mean, it's like he's just revealing all the truth. All the stuff that people don't know. Well, you guys know now. So you can take appropriate action. You can get your finances out of the brokerage accounts, get that money converted into cash, get it wired into your bank. That's mirrored onto the quantum financial system. Don't have to worry about that. Or you can just say goodbye to it now because you're stubborn, because you can't believe it. It's not possible. They wouldn't do that. They're not doing it. God is. He's the one in charge. He's the one giving the direction, not man. Man is simply carrying out what God tells him to do. That's why I knew when he began to reveal this, everything he told me ended up being proven true, whether it took weeks or months or just hours. This is the wake-up call, people. This is what they hope you do not understand. But I know you do. I know this revelation is filling your heart and your mind, and you are sure about this than anything else in your days. And it's not your job to convince other people. So you've been relieved of that. If they want to know, you direct them over here, because they're not going to believe you anywhere. There's this thing called third-party credibility, and we all know how that works, right? We can tell our spouse or our girlfriend or our boyfriend or about something, and then they go hear about it from a stranger, and they come back to us and say, "Hey, you know what? We need to look at this." And you're like, "Well, wait a minute. I've been trying to tell you that for the last 4 years." But they hear it from a stranger, and it immediately has credibility. So I'll be your credibility. Let me be your credibility. Don't try to do it yourself. Let these videos do the talking. I operate under the authority of God, not under my own authority. So let God, let the Holy Spirit enter their heart and make known to them what no other man knows. Fantastic. Oh, and that brought up another point I wanted to make. Let me see if I can remember it. We'll continue on. Through the Father, I originated the buyback concept. And I say that as humbly as I possibly can. He gets all the glory. He gets all the credit. I just am so thankful and honored to be able to present it to you. Here's where you can find me on Twitter. Here's where you can find me on Rumble. Here's my YouTube videos. I'm doing everything over on Rumble now. I'm opening up a Telegram channel that's coming soon. And these are some of the places where he has opened doors for people to get this message. Mel Carmine was the first person I contacted about coming out in front of the camera. Susan Price saw me on Mel's show and began to open doors. I'm so thankful to both of you. Dr. Pruitt, through Susan Price, opened her channel to what the Lord had to reveal. That opened a door to be on Nicholas Veneman's show. This has gone viral. That opened the door to be on the Charlie Ward show, to release this prophetic message and have him confirm the Redemption Center process. That opened a door on the Trump News Channel. And then also exposure through Restored Republic. Go check it out. It's all right there. I'm going to begin working on the next video. I hope we have time. Things are happening fast. May is going to be a very, very busy month. We have the 13th of May coming up, which is Ascension Day. That was the day the Lord had me reveal his first great reveal. So there's a significance in that. But with that, I bless all of you, and I look forward to having you watch the next video. God bless.